work often co-influence with the quote effect of violating the dignity.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're well. Once you're in the room, if you would be kind enough to mute your microphone, that would be outstanding. Thank you so much. We're just letting all the people in from the lobby. Apologies, we're a couple of minutes behind the curve, but we will be good in a second or two. I hope you're all well and having a great week. It's been a big week for us, obviously. This is session 10 of hashtag 10. And I can't quite believe that we made it 10 years and then we made it through 10 presentations this week. It's been pretty hardcore, but some amazing content. I mean, really, truly fabulous. And all of it available to download or play again via our website. So you'll be able to jump in at any time after today and go back over the workshops that we've run during the week. So it's quite an interesting scenario that we find ourselves in at the end of this week, because our last speaker, and I won't embarrass somebody, knows this. I think the world of both personally and professionally. He's a truly outstanding speaker. And I first met Stefan in a pub in Cramlington umpteen years ago when we were both doing other things with other people at the time, but essentially what we do today. And we had a chat and we did that classic thing that you're supposed to do with networking. We sat down with a brew and had a conversation, and all amazing things have flowed rather from that point. And anybody who's ever been to any of our events, and I'm equally certain to anything that Stefan's ever spoken at, will have been told to just have a conversation, just talk to people and get to know them and learn a bit about them, because bizarrely, there's an awful lot of things that we have in common that we would never know about until we started chatting. And I'm sure the same is true with Stefan and I. You could write down, a list of things that you like and don't like. And I'm sure there's as many things that we don't like and makes us both unique. But I'm sure the column of things that we do like and things that motivate us or get us going in the morning is equally just as full. And we would never know that if we'd never had that conversation all those years ago, and then continue to have conversations since. We both were born about 6-7 weeks apart, although obviously I look much younger, and I'm not quite as dynamic as Stefan is. He's been at such luminary events as Lou of the Year this week, and so an epic job, and he's looking very flush, if I may say. No crap today. So without further ado, we're going to hand over to Stefan, who's live in the studio, so to speak. So I don't know if that little light behind you goes red, Stefan, that says on air.
The batteries have run out.
The batteries have gone. As long as your batteries haven't gone, well, that's fine. So with that said, sir, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I'm so flattered. It's been the end of a really busy week for me. I was the MC for the Lou of the Year Awards, and I will talk about the Lou of the Year Awards in a second, because that plays into everything that I'm going to talk about today. And yes, congratulations to Hashtag Events for making it to 10 years, because not only have they been putting on amazing business shows for the last decade, but they actually managed to continue virtually when the world shut down 5 years ago. You may have read about it on the news. So I'm really, really pleased to be rounding this week off. We are doing this live, which is my preference. This is how I prefer to do things. So if you have any questions for me, please do put them in the chat, and I'll try and answer them along the way. I will give you the opportunity to connect with me on other social media platforms as well. Let's just do that. I'll pop that in the chat. So if you fancy connecting with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, you'll find all of my social connections there. So I'm Stefan. I am the author of get my camera right. I am the author of Business Networking for Dummies. I do speak for a living about networking, and I train people, quite a lot of people these days, and train them how to win business from their networking activity. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation, and I find myself in the fortunate position that, as well as speaking for hashtag events a lot this year, I also speak for BT, Lloyds Bank, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, the public sector as well, and many other organisations, and help them understand how to make more sales using networking, face-to-face networking, virtual networking such as this, and social media as well, because since 2007 social media has been a massive part of my networking. And every client that I've just talked about, I've won from going to networking events and or being active on social media. So we're going to talk about that. I've got maybe about half an hour of talking material to tell you. So that leaves us plenty of time for any questions that you've got. I will just ask Andrew and Charlton if that's all right in terms of timings, but I'm pretty sure we've got time for questions. I'm getting a thumbs up. So we've got time for questions along the way as well. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. You might hear me say that more than once during the course of the afternoon and our discussion here. One of the first things that I want to say to you is that when you're in networking circles, when you're on social media, when you're at one of hashtag's many excellent events, you can start with little conversations. What I think far too many people do is turn up at a networking event. Thanks for pinning me, whoever just did that. What so many people do is turn up at an event and believe that they have to go straight into the business side of things straight away. But we don't have to do that. We wouldn't do it in real life. Whenever I arrive at a networking event, be it real life or virtual or whatever it happens to be, I start by chatting about stuff. Very often it will be a real life networking event. We'll chat about the traffic, or we'll chat about the parking, or because I'm English, predictably, I'll talk about the weather. We just start the conversation with normal human stuff. What so many people do is think that because it's got the title networking, that we have to go straight in and be businesslike with people straight away. If you think about it, what I've seen people do at networking events is go straight to people and try and suss out if they can sell them whatever it is they're selling. And I always think that's just in the wrong order. You wouldn't do that in a nightclub. I'm going to say that I've not been to a nightclub certainly since the 1990s, if not earlier than that. But you do dance around the handbag a little bit, don't you, before you invite someone back to your flat. When you go to a networking event, if you immediately start selling to people and they say no, you've shut the door forever. What I prefer to do, and what has been much more successful for me over the years, as Andrew just said, is start a real human conversation with people. That's how I approach networking events. That's how I approach social media. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. Let me talk about the Lou of the Year Awards briefly, because it illustrates it really well, I think. I was the MC for the Lou of the Year Awards on Wednesday, the day before yesterday. It's a glittering event celebrating the best toilets in the UK, the best away from home toilets in the UK. And people laugh at me a little bit for being involved with those events, but 350 people in the room, several multi-billion euro or multi-billion dollar businesses in the room, plus people like Wetherspoons and the Crown Estate and all of the motorway service stations and so on. It's a big event. I went to a networking event in Bristol 11 years ago or thereabouts. I met someone who ran something called the Welsh Business Shows, and we got talking. I spoke at one of her very early events. At one of her very early events, a guy called Rich Beale was there, who runs Herefordshire Means Business, and he invited me to speak at his event. And when I spoke at his event 3 years ago, in my audience were Becky and her manager Jane, who run the Loo of the Year Awards, and they asked me if I fancied speaking at their event. If I hadn't gone along to the networking event in Bristol, if I hadn't got chatting to Emma, who runs the Welsh Business Shows, if I hadn't got chatting to Rich Beale, who runs Herefordshire Means Business, I'd have never got invited and paid really quite well to speak at that event. On Twitter, I think Lawrence Lown is definitely in the room, and Lawrence Lown knows this story far too well. On Twitter, in 2014, I got chatting to a guy called Wes Linden, and we talked about postcards. That's what we got talking about on Twitter. I could even see Lawrence's face there, so I know he's here. Wes and I got talking on Twitter about postcards. I would use an app on my phone to send a postcard to my grandmother every week to tell her where I was. My grandmother would have been in her late 80s at the time. She didn't do social media, so I sent her a physical postcard. And Wes Linden popped up on my Twitter and said, "Oh, tell me about this app that you're using." Wes and I got to know each other. We met for coffee a few weeks later. And in 2016, a decade ago this weekend, actually, I think, Lawrence, and anyone else who's here, in 2016, Wes invited me to speak at what was then his flagship event, his kickoff event in front of 2,500 people. And we've gone on to become really good friends. I've spoken for his organisation, Utility Warehouse, on a number of occasions, and Wes and I wrote a book together. But we started by talking about postcards. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. And when Wes and I started chatting, I didn't immediately say to him, "Do you want to book me as a speaker?" Because, like, if you don't want to book me as a speaker, I might as well go and chat to the other guy who might want to book me as a speaker. We talked about stuff. At no point did Wes ask me if I wanted to buy gas, electric, or telecoms from him. We talked about stuff, and we are obviously very happy Utility Warehouse customers now ourselves, and I speak for the organisation myself on a number of occasions. The big opportunities came from starting a little conversation. So my first hint, my first tip is start human conversations with people, whether that is on social media or at real life networking events. Start human conversations with people, because you've got very literally the rest of your life to continue the conversation. When you go to a networking event, whether it's real life, virtual, you're starting the conversation. So many people treat the networking event as the whole of the conversation. I'm going to turn up. I'm going to turn up at hashtag events. I think I'm at the Sutton Coldfield Business Show later on in the month. I'm going to turn up. I'm going to start talking to people. I'm going to see if they want to buy from me. Why do it all that quickly? Because when you shut those doors, when people say, "No, I don't want to buy from you right now," you may well be shutting the door forever. If you just get to know people at the event, you have plenty of time to continue the conversation afterwards. I've already done it. I've already shared my socials in the chat. Let's just, there we go. I'll pop that link in again, because actually you and I have got time to keep our conversation going afterwards. It's the same link, it just looks different. When you go to a networking event as well, or on social media, or on Facebook, wherever it happens to be, if you go to one of hashtag events, think about why the other people are in the room. When I'm on stage, I usually ask this question live, like, when you go to an event, whose business do you go there for the sake of? You probably don't go to buy from other people. You go to events to sell to other people. But guess what? Everyone else in the room is there for the same reason as you. They turned up at a networking event or a business show or whatever it happened to be for the sake of their business and not for the sake of your business. So it's really interesting to me that what people do when they're at networking events or business shows, the very first thing that they often try and do is talk about something that's only of interest to one person in the room. Even when we deliver our 60 seconds at a networking event, I'm going to give you a few tips on that in a second. Even when we deliver our 60 seconds, we've all been taught to do this thing called the elevator pitch. We've all been taught to talk about our business. What we're trying to do when we start conversations with people, or when we deliver a 60-second introduction at networking events, we're still trying to start the conversation. If you think about what you're selling when you open a conversation with people, with anyone, in any sort of sales environment, I was an estate agent for 20 years, 1988 through to 2007. That's what I did full time. When someone phoned to ask about a house, we didn't try and sell them the house. We tried to sell them the viewing, to go in and see the house. Because if we tried to sell them a house that they hadn't seen, that they hadn't experienced, they weren't just going to buy it on a telephone conversation. In 20 years, that happened to me once. I once sold a house sight unseen. But we were selling the viewing, and we understood that. When you meet someone at a networking event, what so many people try and do is sell them their service. But the next thing that you should be selling them is the next conversation with you. So when you deliver your 60 seconds, you're not trying to sell them on your product or service. You're trying to sell them on a future conversation. You want to give people enough that they want to find out more. So often we try and skip the steps. Hi, I've just met. Would you like to buy this? Hi, we've just met. I think that what I'm selling might be suitable for you. Shall we have a conversation about it? That's the way that I would approach things. When you deliver your 60 seconds, think about giving people enough that they want to find out more. Don't give them, this is the trap that so many people fall into. Don't give them so much that people can think, oh yeah, tick, I know what he does. I'll come back to him if I ever need his services. Give them enough so that what they actually say is, oh, I'd like to find out more about what she does. That might be of interest to me. What I actually sell, right, is training courses, or me as a speaker, depending on who the audience is. But when I stand up at a networking event and introduce myself, my introduction doesn't say, hi, I'm Stefan and I've got these training courses. My introduction says, I help people sell more at events just like this. My clients know how to handle conversations so that people want to buy from them. Would you like to find out more about that? People aren't buying training courses from me. People aren't buying what you sell. What people are buying is the results. What people are buying is the outcomes. So when I start the conversation, either by meeting people or by delivering a 60-second introduction, I'm explaining to people the outcomes that they will get from doing business with me, from getting involved in a training course. I'll tell them about the training course later, because people will say, great, okay, that sounds cool. How does it work? Or how much does it cost? People will give buying signals. But what I do is not skip the steps. I talk to people about the outcomes that they'll get from working with me. You think about it. Well, I don't know exactly who we've got in the room, but let's think about it. If you're a business coach or business consultant, you can help people become more profitable or scale their business or spend less time on their business. That's what they're buying. People didn't set out to buy a business coach or business consultant. If you're a life coach, you can help people feel happier about what they do or be more content in their life. People don't go out to buy a life coach. People actually don't go out, because I know at least one person who we've got in the room. People don't go out and think, oh, the thing that I really want to do today is change my utilities over to a new provider. But what you might be able to do is save them money or cut down on hassle because they only get one bill. Or that's what people are buying from you. But the next step is to have a further conversation with you. The networking event, the social media post, that's just the start of the conversation. You've got unlimited time to continue the conversation. So that's why I connect with people. Wherever I go to networking events or events that I've been invited to do, such as this, I connect with people because we can continue the conversation then afterwards. We can connect on social media, and I exist predictably on every single social media platform, except for X these days, but that's for political reasons rather than other reasons. But I exist across the spectrum of social media platforms, and a big part of my job, I work for myself, but it's what I do. A big part of my job is then keeping in touch with the people that I've met. Because here's something else that people do. Your life is busy. I know your life is busy. Earlier this morning, I messaged Andrew Charlton from #events to say, look, mate, I've had to take my son to hospital. I'm going to try and get there for 1 o'clock, but I'm so sorry. My life's busy. Your life is busy. Everyone's life is busy. When someone leaves a networking event or an event like this where they've just met you, they might get a call to say they've got to whip their son up to A&E quickly, or they've missed a couple of calls from a client, or they've got to rush to their next appointment because they didn't leave themselves enough time. Even if they really loved what you had to say when they met you, in the nicest possible way, they're going to forget about you when real life gets in the way. They might have thought, oh, that guy was great. I really loved what he was doing, or really liked what that lady had to say about this. Oh, and I better call this person back. What so many of us do is we want everyone to remember us, but we put the onus on them to remember us. We don't take responsibility for it. When I leave a networking event or having met anyone, I take responsibility for keeping the conversation going. I don't expect them to remember me. I expect myself to remind them that I exist. And I do this in a number of ways, which I'll talk about, and I hope you take advice from it, because it works, right? Because I run training courses. I've had a message from a client this morning, which was very flattering, to say, I did what you told me last week. He sells payroll and payroll services, and I've just landed a nice big contract to provide payroll services to an accountant. So I know it works. I take responsibility for keeping in touch with people, but I do this in a really specific way. I am super active on social media. Since 2007, social media has been so valuable to all of us and broadly free, apart from our time, to promote ourselves and connect with people on there. But I've already talked about why people go to networking events. They go there for the sake of their business. It really is worth thinking about why people show up on social media. People show up for their own stuff. What so many people do, and the question that most people ask me in training courses and so on, is what should I post on social media? And it's a good question, but it's the wrong question to start with. Because if I post something on LinkedIn or Facebook, Facebook is my most active platform, and Facebook is where I won BT and several of my other clients. Goes against the grain that people think LinkedIn is the only place to be. When I post on Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm relying on that thing that we've all heard of, but very few of us really know what it means, the algorithm. So the algorithm will decide whether you see it. Even if you follow me, it might show it to you, it might not. It depends. It depends how many people visit in the first hour, as shows it to more people. It depends whether I get the right words in there, and so on and so forth. You might not even log on to Facebook or LinkedIn that day. I'm there all the time, but I appreciate that normal human beings aren't. You might be doing a webinar like this. So if I post something, you won't get to your laptop for an hour or so. You won't see my post. So you might not actually see what I post. That's the reality. I don't know what the percentages are these days on Facebook, but when you post, it gets shown to a pitiful number of your actual followers, a pitiful number. If you post on Facebook or LinkedIn and I go and comment on your post, you're going to spot that I've commented, right? I make an absolute point of not expecting people to come to me, but I go to them. If I am connected with someone, and I am strategic about this, if I would like someone to buy from me, I will make absolutely sure that I remind them that I exist. Several years ago now, I met Paul McCluskey. Paul was head of professional practices for Lloyds Banking Group PLC. He headed up the department of Lloyds Bank that dealt with solicitors. So they provided bank accounts to solicitors. A medium-sized solicitors firm will have 100 separately numbered bank accounts. So it's decent business for Lloyds Bank. But I met Paul McCluskey. I had spoken at an event that he was at. And we got chatting, and I commented on his posts on LinkedIn for 18 months after I met him, pretty much religiously. When Paul got around to organising his sales conference for his 90 something, can't remember, but 90 plus sales managers around the UK, Paul said, I couldn't ignore you, could I? I'm going to ask you to come and speak at our sales conference. And I couldn't ignore you because every time I logged on to LinkedIn, there you were up in my notifications. Stefan Thomas has commented, Stefan Thomas has liked. How much better was that than me emailing Paul every 3 weeks and saying, hey, Paul, this is Stefan. We met at this event in Coventry, I think it was. Would you like to book me as a speaker for your event? He said, I couldn't ignore you, could I? And it's such a nicer way of reminding people that you exist than constantly following up with people who don't really want to buy from you at this stage anyway. I'll come to that right at the end. So most of my social media activity, by a country mile, is commenting on, liking, sharing other people's posts. And I do that a lot. I am pretty much constantly on my device, if I'm not doing anything else, keeping in touch with people. If I meet someone and they say, I'd like to buy from you, I follow up with them straight away, immediately. Come to that in a second as well. But for all of the people that I meet that don't immediately buy from me, I keep in touch with them because they might buy from me in future. I do not like when I meet someone at a networking event and they immediately want to follow up with me and try and sell me something that I've expressed no interest in buying. I do like when people keep in touch with me and choose the right moment. Once again, I'll come to that. When I go to people enough, when I'm going to them, commenting, liking on their posts, guess what? Quite a lot of people come back and look at me and look at my social media, and they're doing the same to you. In fact, it's such a thing that Google have written about it. Google call it the 0 moment of truth. You can Google it. Google wrote a big piece about it in 2013. In the 21st century, people make a decision before they pick up the phone to you. And what they do is they check you out. You don't know that they're doing it unless you've got some very clever tech on your website or your social media. But people are checking you out before they buy from you. So what's happened with me is I got booked to speak for the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And I got booked, I got paid for the gig before I ever actually met any of them. Spoke to them on the phone, but before I met any of them. And when I asked, why did you book me? They said, well, you were recommended to us along with 5 other speakers. So when we had the committee meeting, we checked you all out. And when we checked you out online, we felt like we already knew you. So there's video of me speaking professionally online, like professional video shot by proper video people, so that they could see that it was I wanted them to pay me to do. But there's also quite a lot of talking head video of me online as well, where I give networking advice and so on. I also write that's how I type. I write a lot, but I've never been taught to type properly. There's quite a lot of written material, and I give quite a lot away as well. So they said, we checked you out, and no matter what platform we went on, we felt like we already knew you. So they were confident to book me and pay me to speak at their event. That was before they contacted me. What are people finding when they check you out? It's a big question. 2026, right? I was going to say 2025. It's 2026, and people have got the means to check you out and see if you are who you say you are. See if you are a speaker. Like, you can't ignore that I spoke at the Lou of the Year Awards this week on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. There's already video and photos of me there because I want to remind people I'm a speaker. That's what I want to do. So I keep in touch with people after I've met them, and I absolutely make sure that if they check me out, that there's plenty there for them to check out. Google the 0 moment of truth. Google have written about it. You do it without knowing it. You look at the reviews for the holidays you go on. You look at the reviews for the restaurants you go to. You check stuff out online before you buy it. You look at Amazon reviews. You look at eBay reviews, etc., etc. Vinted, although I don't do Vinted, but you look at Vinted reviews of people before you buy from them. And people are doing that for you as well. So if you work for an organization, they've probably given you material which you can share. If you work for yourself, like me, it's down to you to come up with the material. And that's what I do constantly. I've got a number of ways to do it. That's what I train people. I always work with people to make sure that they have a bespoke plan, but at its core, make sure that when people check you out, that they will find something. So that's how to keep in touch with people. If someone has expressed interest in buying from you, I mentioned earlier that when someone leaves an event, real life gets in the way, right? And they might, in the nicest possible way, they might even forget that they spoke to you. If someone expresses an interest in buying from you, they're interested in that moment. There's a great book that I read. I will never take credit for this quote because it's too good. It's someone else's, and it's called The Half-Life of Enthusiasm. I used to be involved in an organization where we were selling people on a visit to a networking event. We didn't try and sell them membership of the networking organization. We sold them a visit. Rather like when I was an estate agent, we wanted people to view the house. We wanted people to visit our networking events. If we met a business owner at a business show, such as #events, and we got them booked in on the spot to visit, then they would probably turn up. We would phone them to confirm. If we phoned them the next day after the business event, we lost about 50% of people. 50% of them would have forgotten. The half-life of enthusiasm would have started to drift down. They would forget why they said they wanted to come to our networking event. If we phoned people a week later, nobody would come. They would have utterly forgotten that they ever spoke to us. If someone's interested in buying from you, follow up with them then, in that moment. All of us, I'm going to say all of us, I know that's very broad. Most of us carry a device around with us now where we can connect with people on social media straight away. And we've probably got our diary there in front of us. That's my diary. So two things: dishwasher engineer come in, and interview with Andrew Charlton, which is this. That's how it went in my diary for today. Most of us carry our diary around. So if people are interested in a one-to-one with you to find out more about what you do, why not just book it with them on the spot? Get it booked. When the half-life of enthusiasm's there, get that follow-up conversation booked with people. One of the structural things which I do is, if I'm going to a networking event anywhere, as well as the time for the networking event being in my diary, I will always leave myself time at the end of the event to follow up with the people, connect with the people, keep in touch with the people that I've met along the way. So start conversations with people, and you don't have to be businesslike. Take responsibility yourself with keeping in touch with the people you've met. Don't give them the responsibility of keeping in touch with you when it's you who wants to sell to them. If people want to buy from you, then at least make it easy for them. Follow up with them very quickly. With everyone else, keep in touch with them. Make absolutely sure that when people check you out online, that they're going to find something, that there is something there that they can see that demonstrates that you know what you're talking about, because your competition are probably not who you expect. It's well worth actually making sure that people can see that you are who you are, that you do know what you do. And finally, and this is something that a lot of people, I was talking to someone about this just yesterday, a lot of people get very icky about. Icky was the word that my client Beth used yesterday. And what Beth said to me was that she does everything else, but she gets icky when she actually needs to ask people to buy from her. I no longer get icky about asking people to buy from me. So I've got a belief that what I do is valuable, that people who work with me sell more. I believe that, so that if they put £1 into working with me, they're going to get £1.50 out, and I'm good with that ratio. So I believe in what I'm selling to people, but I also believe that you do need to sell. So as well as keeping in touch with people, as well as being really visible on social media, I do something else as well, and that is that I will send multiple messages a week to people who I believe that will benefit from working with me. And I will say, hey, Steve, if there's a Steve in the room, I don't mean you, I'm just choosing a name at random. Stephen Innes, actually, Stephen, I do mean you. I'd love to work alongside you. But I will say, hey, I reckon that this service that I provide would be valuable to you. Here's what it is. I've set up a little website that you can find out more. And people buy. And if I hadn't approached them, even if I know them really well, even if I've posted about the service on social media, even if I've sent out round robin emails, if I hadn't sent that hyper personal message to say, hey, this is, you know, you mentioned this and you're struggling with this. Well, I do this. And I reckon if you bought this program, then it would help you achieve what you want to achieve. People buy and I make sales. In 2026, and certainly coming out of 2025, I genuinely think that too many business owners didn't feel that they needed to sell, that if they put stuff out on social media, people would buy from them. I absolutely know that there are people who have bought services from me that wouldn't have bought if I didn't directly approach them. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. That's mine. I wrote that for my first book. But an expression I didn't write is that, you know, if opportunity comes knocking, at least answer the door. If I spot an opportunity, I do go out and take advantage of it. Again, I believe that what I offer is valuable, so why wouldn't I be proud to go out there and sell it to people? One final thing before I open up the room for questions, and I'll answer Lawrence's question in 2 seconds. I've spotted it. You're all familiar with DFS, the furniture store. I'm pretty sure that everyone who we've got in the room is at least from the British Isles. If not, you might not be familiar with DFS, but you're all familiar with television adverts. DFS, the furniture store, advertise on our TV every single night and have been since I was a kid. I remember their adverts from the 1970s. And every night they advertise that they've got a sale on. Every night they advertise that they do interest-free credit. And every night they advertise that you don't have to put a deposit down to get your sofa delivered in 6 weeks. We know all of that, right? They advertise every night. You can't, up until a few years ago, you couldn't ignore it. Now we can zip through the adverts. Why did the FS do that every night when at least everyone from England in the room will know exactly who they are and what they do? The reason that DFS do it is that they don't know when you're going to be ready to buy a sofa. So they need to be in your face at that moment. Every person and every business who we're selling to, we want to sell to them when we want to sell to them, but they want to buy from us when they're ready to buy. Every business has tipping points. So it might be the end of their contract with their utility supplier. It might be when they've got a budget to buy services. It might be when they come to organize their conference and want a speaker. We need to be there then. That's why DFS advertise every night. And that's why you need to be super visible in front of people and make sure you're super visible constantly so that you're there at the moment at which they're ready to buy from you. I'm going to open up the room to any questions that you've got. I am just going to say that I really hope that you've enjoyed this presentation, and I will stick around and answer your questions for you. If you wanted to work with me one-to-one and actually make a difference to your business and get some bespoke advice, that in the chat is how I'll be working with people for the rest of January and into February. For £195, you get 2 group sessions with the other people that I'm working with, which will be live like this, and you'll all be chatting and I'll be able to answer your questions. Plus, we'll have one-to-ones as well, and you'll have access to me so that I can structure everything bespoke and tailor-made for you. £195, I've got 20 spaces on that. I've currently got 17 left. I only started advertising it yesterday, but would absolutely love to work with you. Really would love to work with you. Going to come to Lawrence's question. I'll come to that first, and then anyone else can ask questions. I'm not sure I'm completely understanding the question, Lawrence. You don't share FB links. Do you mean you, and by all means answer this in the chat, or take yourself off mute if you prefer, I'm good with that. Do you mean you don't put links onto Facebook posts, or you don't share links of Facebook posts. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question.
While Lawrence comes back to that, can I just give you one, Stefan? Because
Yeah,
you and I have known each other a very long time, and the core skills of networking have been the same for a very long time. But there's an awful lot of extraneous factors coming into play now, not least of which is business automation and AI. And I'd just like to get a sense of your take on whether they're a help or a hindrance, and in what way you see that being something that the people who are on the call can use to their advantage in the future.
It's an interesting one, and I'm not judgmental about this because I write, and I'm very protective of my voice. And one of the first things that my wife, when I first met Sharon, noticed about me was that I can write very quickly. I wrote a review for the hairdresser that she worked in. I wrote it on my phone and it took me seconds. That's what I can do, but I can't do anything graphic and I can't do pictures and so on. So I don't use AI to write for me. I do use AI to create graphics for me, and I do use AI to brainstorm ideas with. A really good example, a really up-to-date example, is that I was awake in the night. I just joked with someone yesterday afternoon about me and them doing a podcast together, and I was on ChatGPT saying, look, this is who this guy is, this is what he speaks about, can you come up with some cheeky names for a podcast that we could do? And ChatGPT in 2.7 seconds came up with 50 potential names for our podcast. For me, he's called Oliver. For me and Oliver to go and talk about afterwards. I do use AI for throwaway Facebook and LinkedIn graphics. So we, you know, if I need a quick graphic for a Facebook post, that's what ChatGPT. Haven't used that one yet, but I am not standing on that stage. I'm not pointing out at the audience. That's how I think I look when I'm on stage. I think ChatGPT is very flattering. But for
it looks like an audition picture to get on the hairy bikers.
It does a bit actually, but I was with earlier on this week a Britain's Got Talent magician. Actually, he was the entertainer for and his press photos do look very like that. But for me, in the olden days, and I say this with huge respect to graphic designers, I will use a graphic designer still to help me with brand identity, with visuals for things. For throwaway social media posts, I think that Facebook is ChatGPT is brilliant for that. With writing, I write myself, but I completely get that not everyone does, and the tools are there to help people to write stuff. And it's getting more difficult to spot AI written posts now. AI is getting cleverer at doing that. So AI, I believe, used in the right way. I'm going to reply to Donna's point in a minute because it's a really valuable point as well as Ken Reed I've got there. For me, AI is a tool and it's here to stay. Too many people are trying to wish it away, and that's not going to happen. So I hope that answers that question. Right. So I'm going to come, actually, look, whilst we're on the subject, I'm going to answer Donna's question and then I'm going to come to Ken Reed. Yeah, that's it's an incredibly sensible question, Donna. And you're speaking to a lifelong vegetarian, but I still fly on planes. So I know that there's some hypocrisy in me doing that. And I do use AI. My hope is that with the advent of quantum computing, particularly, that as AI is becoming more and more of our daily life, then they will work out better ways. They, being the people who actually run these things, will work out better ways for it to become more sustainable. Because at the moment, the energy drain and the water usage is far too high. I'm using it as a tool, and I'm using it advisedly. I drive a car and I fly on aeroplanes, so I know that not everything that I do is sustainable. I use public transport whenever I can, and I'm using AI in the same spirit that it's a tool that's there to be used, and I believe that it will become more sustainable in the future. In the meantime, I'm not in a position to be as choosy about it as I would like. I have chosen to come off one of the social media platforms owned by a very rich man because I didn't agree with the politics therein, and in the last week or so I'm even more pleased with that. But on the sustainability issue, at the moment I know that AI isn't sustainable, but equally it's too valuable a tool for me to ignore in my business, and I hope that's not too flaky an answer. It's an honest answer. It's where it is. I still fly on airplanes, so I know that. Making people more at ease. To answer Ken's question, and Ken, the very first time I went to a networking event, I was incredibly nervous. Couldn't do my 60 seconds. When I have more time, I talk about that. When I emceed the Lou of the Year Awards this week, it was the first time that I had emceed a major event. So guess what I spent the previous year doing, because they booked me a year ago. Spent the previous year rehearsing for it, working out what I was going to say, working out what I was going to do, so that when I turned up on the day, I'd already emceed it in our sitting room at home and on the stage to an empty room the day before, hundreds of times in our sitting room at home. I prepare for stuff so that I can appear confident on the day. The same with a networking event. What I would strongly suggest, message the organisers of any networking event that you're going to if you're nervous. Find out what the format was. My main problem with my first networking event was that I didn't know that I was going to have to do a 60 seconds. No one told me. So I wasn't prepared for it. These days, I prepare. If I'm going to one of Andrew Charlton's events, he knows this. Andrew will post, we've got a show coming up in David's, Chester St David's or Sutton Coldfield, and I'll go in the chat on the LinkedIn post and say, hey, if you're going to be there, I'll come and say hello. I do that with every networking and every business event I go to. What that means is that when I get there, I'm not walking into a room full of strangers. So I'm super prepared. I know what my 60 seconds or my introduction is going to be like. And I've used social media to actually connect with some of the people in advance. And that's what works for me. Preparation. I know we all talk about it in business, but I'm so out of my comfort zone, my natural comfort zone, going to networking events. I'm not a naturally gregarious person. That's not who I am. I would be described as shy and definitely introverted. But it's so important to my business and has been over the years that I've worked out the strategies to do it. That's what I do. I prepare. Once again, I'll say without any shame, if anyone wanted to work on that one-to-one with me, the courses are there as well. But preparation in advance and actually getting to know people using social media, they're great tools for me as well. Any other questions that people have got?
Great stuff, Stefan. Well, if there are any other questions, I'm very happy to get people to come and connect with you online. And as you say, you'll be able to meet you in person at a number of places that we're going to be at together, and lots of other great events are available. I'm pleased, by way of counterbalance, Stefan, that I travel on the train and eat lots of meat. So between us, we make a winning combination. But I think it is wrap up time now. I thank you so much, Stefan, for giving up your time, and an awesome contribution as always, and it's always been that way. So thank you, very full of gratitude for your support. To everybody who's on the call, monumental thanks for your support, not just today, but across the whole week and indeed the last 10 years. It's been an absolute scream. I did a podcast a couple of days ago about the sort of story of the last 10 years with Event Matters, and so we're in this month's podcast. that will be on the website to listen to for anybody who's got nothing better to do with their lives and wants to hear a bit of the backstory. All of the sessions that we've done this week are on the #10 page, and today's sessions will be on there for replay in the next few hours. So if you missed a bit, you want to recap, just jump in and click away. You'll also see lots of clips and extracts from all this week's talks furiously appearing on our social media streams on TikTok. I think we've knocked out 210 clips so far in the week to date. And there'll be a lot more to come. So so just remains for me to say have a great rest of your day and weekend, and hopefully we see you somewhere soon over the course of the next year. End of #10's been monumental, and a monumental thank you it has to go to Gavin, our ambassador, who keeps us right and supports us furiously. Very grateful. To my very great friend Stephen J. Innes, all the way up in the northeast of Scotland, who hosts our events and sessions and curates the networking at events, and to everybody else who's been part of it. So listen, have a great day. Thanks again, and we will see you very soon. Toodaloo.
Job done, sir.
Boom. Sorted.
Wow. That